So heading into round 5, the Broncos still hold the crown. They're the only team that haven't lost a match so far this season. Right off the top 4 are the Sea Eagles, the Dolphins, and the Warriors. As for our picks, we got 5 out of 8, the Panthers, the Sea Eagles, and the Raiders letting us down. That brings our total to 19 out of 32. We have another interesting week ahead. I've got a couple of potential blowouts. Let's jump into it. So to kick off the round, we have the Sydney Roosters hosting the Parramatta Eels. Another one of many teams the Eels will be playing coming off a bye.
There's got to be an investigation into this.
As for the ins and outs, for the Roosters, Joey Manu and Terrell May, and for the Eels, a massive out in Junior Paulo. My pick for this, I typically like the team coming off a bye. The Roosters though, I'm a little iffy on due to their lack of a cohesive attack or consistent attack. As for the Eels, I really dug their interchange bench last week. Players like Matt Dory and Brendan Hands were surprising and were actually impactful. You add Murchie to the bench, and based on his appearances for the Eels, I think it's looking even better than last week. But yeah, it's that battle for the middles. Paulo's such a massive loss. He puts in a lot of minutes too. I am interested to see if Campbell Gillard will keep the same intensity because he was off tap last week, coming up against a front row of Waria Hargreaves, Smith and Collins, not to mention Victor Radley as well in the middle. I'm always waiting for the Roosters to eventually kick into gear, and who knows, maybe a bye is actually the last thing they need when trying to find synergy, I guess. Funnily enough, I know they're missing Joey Manu, but that could also benefit them a bit. As we all know, they've been victims of having too many cooks in the kitchen, and having someone like Hutchison in there to just play a role could actually be more beneficial when it comes to the team trying to find their groove, which is pretty nuts to say because you obviously still want Joey in the team. On the other side, can Parramatta lift like they lift for Penrith? Those games are a bit of an anomaly because they're like their bogey team for the regular season. It'll be interesting. People always say this, but this one could truly go either way. And I'm going to lean towards the Chooks, 1-12. Game 2, we have the good old Canberra Battlers, the Canberra Raiders taking on the Penrith Panthers. The only game I remember between these two from last season is that match where Penrith just absolutely beat the brakes off the Raiders. They tackled them into submission, if you will. Now Penrith, they're far from that team they were last season, but that playstyle is still very prominent. And even without players like Kikau and Koroisau, I see them doing that very same thing in this game coming up. In terms of ins and outs, Jack Whiten out for the Raiders, massive, and Luke Garner and Sonny Luke. I love that Sorensen's now starting in the back row. They've got Hosking on the right, it seems, as well. He looked good paired up with Cleary. And Tyrone Peachy gets his first run back in the Panthers colours, and I actually think he'll carve up. It's a tough game for the home team, and it's tough for me to see their pathway to victory. Like I said, in terms of styles, Penrith love that Canberra style. Super physical, down and dirty, sort of blow for blow, who folds first type thing. I do think Canberra will fold. I'm not too confident in Penrith's attack, I will say that. The loss of a genuine game breaker like Kikau has been noticeable. Garner's been getting some balls that if Kikau got last season, he would have turned into points more than a few times. But yeah, I think Peachy might offer that, like spark or I guess unorthodox look in attack that they've been fiending for, if you will. They do get that from Sonny Luke, but still, there is a tellable structure to his game. Peachy, however, has that natural ability and I guess awareness that is unpredictable. Give me Penrith, give me 13+. In the third game of round 5, we have the South Sydney Rabbitohs hosting the Melbourne Storm at a core stadium. Team list wise, there's no outs for either team. Mesele does make his return back to the bench, and the Storm are still without some key players in Nelson, Hughes, and of course Ryan Pappenhausen. My pick for this game, I'm going to go with the Bunnies. You know, the Storm they've been terrible. Even last week, I know they won and all, but their defense still looks rough around the edges, if you will, literally. And they're coming up against one of the best attacking edges in the comp, who are notorious for their left side attack, but this season have shown to be ambidextrous, with Lachlan Ilias taking the reins. So yeah, I'll take the Bunnies at home, and Melbourne to keep it respectful. We'll go Bunnies 1-12. Super Saturday Game 1, we have the Sea Eagles taking on the Knights, this being played at Mudgee. In terms of ins and outs, for the Sea Eagles, they got Gola out, they have Croker coming in, pushing Kyle Lawton back to the reserves, and for the Knights, it's Kurt Mann. Sideline yet again, this time for a head knock. Been a bit of a rough go for Kurt. My pick for this game, I'm going to go with the Sea Eagles. They got a little unlucky last week, it must be said, but they've been on. Josh Schuster in the 6 has been a breath of fresh air to their attack, and their forward pack have been damaging, especially Haumole Aulakawatu, who has been raising questions every week about a potential origin berth. As for the Knights, they've actually been steadily improving, but yeah, I don't think they have enough firepower, if you will, for this Manly side. Although I will say, Best, Gagai, and Mazu looked damaging in their own right. But yeah, like I said, I want to go for Manly, and we'll go a close one. We'll go Manly 1-12, the Knights, to put up a fight. Super Saturday game 2. This game, we got to the Dragons taking on the Dolphins. These damn Dragons, man. I backed them to keep it competitive against the Sharks, but they fell off way earlier than they did against the Broncos. I don't know what to put that down to. Either the Broncos aren't as good as they come off to be and are getting by on individual brilliance, or the Sharks are just that team with Nico Hines, or I've completely misread the Dragons. We're gonna go with the latter. The key ins and outs. They've got Aaron Woods for outs. He's like out, going to the Seagulls last I heard. And of course, O'Sullivan and Desi New, they're out for the Dolphins, but they do welcome back some key ins, and that is Isaiah Katoa and Jeremy Marshall King. My pick for this game, judging off the way the Dolphins have been playing and the Dragons, the Dolphins are willing to get down and dirty and grind teams out. It's for that reason I'm going to take them in this game against the Dragons, who have shown in the previous weeks to fall off a cliff when things don't go their way. So give me the Dolphins, and we'll go 1-12. The headliner for Saturday sees my Brisbane Broncos take on the West Tigers, this being played at Suncorp Stadium. On NRL.com, they don't have anyone in the outs for the Tigers, but players like Sean Bloor and Dane Laurie have been dropped to reserves. I might have to find a better source for these lineups when making these bids anyway. My pick for this game, I know there's a lot of chatter about the Tigers being the bogey team for the Broncos, but I do think the Broncos can do a number on them if they can play with a bit of patience. We've seen these last couple of weeks now them being way too overzealous when in possession, as opposed to putting in the work before putting on a show. As for the Tigers, they haven't impressed at all, and I'd probably say they've been the most disappointing team this season in terms of expectation. Now, can they come into this game and just flick a switch and look like a completely different team? I don't think so. I think the Broncos win the battle in the middle and will be a little more measured when it comes to their attack. Give me the Broncos, give me 13+. And for Sunday footy, we got a couple of bangers here. The first being the Sharks taking on the Warriors at PointsBet Stadium in Sydney. Key ins and outs for the Sharks. Galfusi drops out, and they welcome back Braden Trindle, so they'll pretty much be full strength. And for the Wars, they welcome back Wade Egan, but they'll be missing a vital piece to their attack, and that is Te Maire Martin. Ronald Walkman steps into the 6. My pick to win this, the Warriors have reinvented themselves this season. They have shown to be in it for the long haul, but I think the class of the Sharkies will be too much for them. Plus they're playing at home, probably be packed to the rafters, full strength as well. Nico Hines absolutely humming at the moment. His return was like he never left. I guess the biggest question for the Warriors is, can they effectively shut Nico out of the game? It'll be interesting to see their approach to this. I don't think it's a matter of shutting down their forward pack, because it's Cronulla's back 5 that's the real problem. Can the Wars deter them from taking those tough carries? Plus the Warriors missing Te Maire Martin, who, like I said, is a massive loss for them. I think the Warriors keep it respectful. I will take the Sharks in this 1-12. And for the final game of the round, we have the Bulldogs hosting the Cowboys, this being played at a core stadium. Ins and outs, starting with the Bulldogs. Frankie Bella makes his return to the bench, and the return of the grub, Josh Reynolds, his first NRL game in how many years now? He gets a spot on the bench. For the Cowboys, we have the return of Peta Hiku. Brandon Elliott replaces Mari Taulangi, and how about this for a replacement? Helium Luki, who's looked super dangerous in his return. He replaces Jeremiah Nanai in the back row. This game's actually, it's a coin flip for me. The Cowboys have looked underdone to start the season. It's a bit of that, of course, but the biggest omission for them has been Scott Drinkwater. They've missed his different looks in attack, especially defensively though. They've for sure missed the presence of Ruben Cotter. He's still unavailable for them. As for my pick, man, I'm on the fence. I can definitely see this young Bulldogs pack getting mixy with this Cowboys pack and eager to knock off one of the big dogs. That's what the Cows are these days. With that being said, I think I'll lean towards the Cowboys. They've been, like I said earlier, a little underwhelming, and I think someone like Jason Taumalolo's due for a big game, because we haven't really gotten a classic Taumalolo performance. We'll take the Cows 1-12. That's pretty much my picks for round 5. We got the Roosters, the Panthers, the Rabbitohs, the Sea Eagles, the Dolphins, the Broncos, the Sharks, and the Cowboys. Let me know your picks in the comment section down below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you later.